Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be filming a book video. If you've been subscribing to me, you know that I've been wanting to film a book video for so long because I've been reading for a while now. I used to hate reading, but like ever since quarantine started, I started reading and I've been super excited to make videos for you guys because I love watching book videos. Booktube is literally my relaxation time. Like in quarantine, I would literally go to sleep watching people doing book videos because it brought me peace. So I hope this video can bring you peace. Recently I found out about booktok, which is TikTokers who are readers. They post like their favorite books and then they go viral. Like the books go viral on TikTok and everyone reads them. So I thought it would be a good idea to give you my opinions on some of the popular TikTok books. Some of these books I read like a year ago. Some of these books I read like last month. I have like a list on my phone of the different books I read and they are they're right here. I got this video idea from this YouTuber, Sarah Caroli. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but I love her videos and she inspired me to make this video. So you guys have probably already seen her video because it has a lot of views, but yeah, let's just get right on into the video. I have some notes on my phone. Also, I have a Goodreads account, but I honestly couldn't tell you my username because I'm still trying to figure out how Goodreads works. I wrote some notes in my phone about some of the books that I read so that I could remember what I rated them and everything. So the first book that I wanted to talk to you guys about is called Call Me By Your Name. It's by Andre Ackman. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but there's a major motion picture, so a movie based off of this book. And honestly, the movie, I never say this about books, but I think the movie was better than the book. And I also think that's because I'm a film minor, and just the way that the movie was filmed and like the atmosphere of the film was so interesting to me. Like I literally did so much research on like the director and like how he wanted it to be filmed and everything like that. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the movie. But anyways, the book, also Timothée Chalamet is in the movie, so you basically need to watch it. But anyways, one thing that I hate in book videos is when people summarize the book and they basically say the whole book, like say what happens in the book. Like then I just don't even want to read it anymore because I'm like, well, I already know what's gonna happen. So I'm gonna give you guys very vague summaries about these books because like I feel like that's the best way to go into a book, is not knowing much about it. But this book is about this guy named Elio and who's the other person? Elio and Oliver. So it's very atmospheric, this book. It is based in Italy and like summer in Italy, and basically so Elio's parents are very well off and they own this mansion in Italy, and Elio grows this attraction towards Oliver. This book just goes, it's basically all in Elio's head of like how he's feeling and how he deals with these emotions and like comes to terms with sexuality. And I honestly thought this was such a good book, and some people may hate it, and if you do hate it, I'll understand why, but don't go into this book expecting like an extreme plot because that's not what this is. There's not much plot at all with this book, but it mainly like goes through Elio's emotions and how he's feeling during this time. And I thought it was a really good book. I thought it was very relatable, and if you enjoy like literature and like pretty words, I highly recommend you read this. But if that's not something that you're interested in, then I wouldn't just recommend anyone to go pick up this book. But if you're interested, I feel like it's worth a shot to reading. And I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I probably should have mentioned that at the beginning because I thought it was a good book, but it definitely wasn't a favorite. The next book that I want to talk about is called Where the Crawdads Sing, and I actually read this about a year ago exactly. Well, probably it's probably coming up on a year ago that I read this, but I'm in this book club for, like, if you're in a sorority at the school that I go to, which is UNT Charlotte, then you can join like this book club, which I basically ran for the majority of the book club. But this was the first book that I read in the book club, and I'm so glad that this was a book club book, because I would have never ever in a million years picked up this book and continued to read it if it wasn't for the book club. But I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5 stars because this is definitely not my type of book. If you enjoy like To Kill a Mockingbird, or basically books about class, like social class, racism, then you would enjoy this. I'm so much more of a fiction romance novel reader that I feel like this book was very mature for me, in a way that like the writing is so beautiful and so atmospheric. And if you enjoy that type of book, like a lot of descriptions and stuff like that, then this might be the book for you. But yeah, there wasn't much of a plot until probably the last like 100 pages. Probably like the first half of the book, I'd give it a solid 2 out of 5 because I didn't know my purpose in reading it except for the book club. But then like towards like the second half, I would give it like a 4 out of 5 because I just loved it, and there's a romance in this that I just loved that romance, and I was intrigued. And it's kind of like a thriller. It doesn't seem like that type of book, but honestly this is the best book to read in the fall. But yeah, so the first half was like a 2 out of 5, second half was a 4 out of 5, so then I made it a 3 out of 5. This isn't something that I would definitely go to reread, but I'm so glad that I read this book because I've never read anything, well, I have read something like this, but I would never like think that I would enjoy reading this type of book. So, oh, I didn't even say what it's about. It's about this girl named Kaya. It's about this girl named Kaya. I call her Marsh Girl, and it takes place in like the North Carolina coast area. It's not a real town, but I imagine it like the Outer Banks town, and like it's in the marshes and stuff. And this is like, basically, I don't want to give anything away, but basically there's this girl who's a marsh girl, and she's like so outcasted from society that like no one really talks to her. Everyone's kind of confused like who she is or like what she's about. I don't know. But then there's this murder. Everyone suspects it's her because she's like so just suspicious and hidden. And yeah, you have to read the book to see like what actually happens, but highly recommend. But if you don't like it, don't come at me because I didn't say it was my favorite book of all time. Okay, on Goodreads I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars because I honestly liked this book, but it wasn't my favorite. The reason why it wasn't my favorite is because I feel like the characters were not developed fully, and I predicted the plot twist like so many chapters before it happened, and I just felt like I ruined the book for myself. Other than that, it was an amazing book. Like, it kept me intrigued. I kept wanting to read to see what happens. Like, I think I finished this in like 2 days because I was just very intrigued, and it's such a quick and easy book to read. But I went into it like expecting something, and my expectations were let down. So maybe if I went into this blind, I would have liked it more. I don't want to tell you too much what it's about, but I just say you should read it. Because I don't want to give a summary, because if I give you a summary, it's just, I feel like it's just going to give things away. 4 out of 5. Not my favorite book, but it definitely was a good book. So yeah, you should read this. Also, I didn't cry. I didn't know where I was supposed to cry in this book. So this next book that I'm about to share with you guys need to read this book. People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. 5 out of 5 book. I don't give many 5 out of 5s. There's a few 5 out of 5s in this pile, but this was a 5 out of 5. One of my favorite books. I watched this girl review it today, and she gave it like a 5 out of 10, and it just disappointed me because I'm like, how can you hate this book? But then she gave her reasoning for like why she didn't give it, like why she didn't like it, and I totally understand her reasoning, but I still loved it. This is about Alex and Poppy. This is a romance novel. Poppy lives in New York City and she works for this travel agency. I don't really know, I can't really remember what exactly it was, but I know she had to travel for her job to like basically blog and take pictures, and she just really likes to travel, and her and Alex always go on vacations together. Like they are not childhood best friends, but they've been best friends for like a while, and they would always like take summer trips together until something happens, and then they stop talking, and then you're trying to figure out what happens. I loved everything about this book, and I think the reason why I love this is because I literally want to live the life that Poppy lives. Like, she lives in New York City, she travels all the time, she's like independent, she like blogs, she takes pictures, and I just related to her on so many things. Like my dream is to basically be an influencer and be able to like travel and share it with people, and that was literally her job. And Alex, if I had a boyfriend in real life, which I don't, I would want him to be like Alex. Literally, Alex is just like the most genuine sweetheart guy, and he likes to read, and you don't meet those kind of people in real life. Alex and Poppy are so different, but they work so well together, and I just want that. So yeah, please read this. That's all I gotta say. Next book that I'm gonna share with you is this big boy, The Wall of Winnipeg in Me. Now let me just start this off by saying so many people told me to read this. I mean, not so many people told me to read this book, but I saw so many recommendations of people saying that this is like their favorite book of all time. Like, they love this book, they could reread this book, and I did not have that experience. The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars, and the reason why is because this book was way too long for the story that it was, first of all. Second of all, the male character in this, like the love interest, if toxic masculinity was a character, it would be him, and if disrespectful was a character, it would be him. Okay, next thing, number 3. Vanessa, the protagonist, the woman character. Her self-esteem is like non-existent, and her standards are through the, like, her standards are like, she just has no standards. So they work well together because he's rude to her, and she likes him because he's rude to her. Like, for example, this isn't a spoiler, but he'll like do something, like he'll smile at her after he just told her to shut up, and she'll be like, oh, he smiled at me, like so seriously. She'll be like, oh, he smiled at me, I can't wait for him to like do something nice again. And I'm just like, I can't read this. Also, it was so cringy. Like, the parts that were supposed to be romantic, it was cringy, and this is like a slow burn. And I don't know if I just am not a fan of slow burns, or if this was just way too slow burn, but I was like about 500 pages in and they hugged for the first time. 500 pages of this wasn't a romance, so like, yeah, it's not my favorite, but I'll tell you what it's about. So basically, it's about this girl named Vanessa, and she works for this guy named Aiden Graves, and he's in the NFO. I don't know if that's a real thing, but it's the National Football Organization. And he like, he's just a big football player. She works for him. He bosses her around. One day she's like, I'm done, like, I quit because I deserve to like not be working for you anymore, and she wanted to do her own career. So she quit. But then one day he goes up to her door and he's like, I need you for, like, he needs her for something, which I'm not going to tell you because someone in their book review said what he needed her for, and it spoiled like this much of the book for me. Read it if you want, but it wasn't my favorite. Next, sorry to be a Debbie Downer, but this next book, I'm just gonna tell you right now, I did not like it. They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. And I wanted to like this book so bad. And it had such a good premise, but I just feel like it was not executed correctly. I'm just gonna be straight up with you guys. I DNF'd this book. I didn't even give it a rating because I got this much into the book and I couldn't finish it because I felt like I was reading about cartoon characters. Like, the characters just didn't seem real, and I felt like there was no point in me reading it because I literally felt like I was reading a cartoon. Basically, it's about these people who, I mean, I guess is a dystopian society, but they live in New York City, which I love anything where they're in New York City, but didn't like this. So it's kind of hard to explain, but basically they get told that they're gonna die at the end of the day. So they meet up, like, they're strangers, and they find out that they're gonna die by the end of the day. So they have 24 hours to live. So this whole book is just 24 hours. It's like a dating app. They go on a dating app for people who are gonna die that same day. So they meet each other on the app and they're like, okay, we're gonna spend our last day together. Don't know what happens because I didn't finish the book, but maybe something good happens in the end that makes up for like the bad beginning. But if you guys like want to read this, read it. And if you guys think I should finish it, let me know, because this is the only book that I've DNF'd before. So the next book I'm going to talk about, I read literally at the beginning of quarantine, and I love that and I hate it because this is, actually I'm going to show you guys. The book that got me back into reading was this one, which no one talks about this book, which I don't know if I would still like it now after reading all these other books. But I loved this book, and I still think about it today, to this day. It's just, if you like Colleen Hoover, I feel like you would like this book. It's called Best Kind of Broken by Chelsea Fine, and I think you need to read it. I won't tell you what it's about because that's not a hyped TikTok book. But anyway, then I read this book in quarantine after I read that one, and I was just hooked on books ever since. But this is called All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven, and it's about these two characters. I gave this, what did I give this? I think I gave it a 4 out of 5 because it's not my favorite, but I still really loved this book. It's about these characters, Theodore and Violet. They're both struggling with a lot, and they're so different. Like, I think she's like a popular girl and he's like kind of nerdy, not nerdy, but like kind of weird. But it's a romance, so obviously you know what happens. But I won't tell you exactly what happens, but there's a lot of trigger warnings, so I would search them up because I was not aware of the trigger warnings. And I feel like this book made me really sad, like not the good kind of sad where you're just like, oh my goodness, like this book made me sad, but like it literally just drained my mood for the next few days, especially in quarantine, because this was like the only thing I was thinking about. Maybe it was not the best to read at the beginning of quarantine because it just brought my mood down. But I still recommend you guys reading this. Just read the trigger warnings before you go into it, so you're aware. The last 2 books, I had to save the best for last. So, actually no, because people we meet on vacation I already talked about. But this is another, well, there's 2 more books that I'm going to talk about. And this book, when I tell you, I see this book on TikTok so many times. I mean, it deserves the hype. It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I love Colleen Hoover. This book was amazing. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. It's about Lily and Ryle, and I don't want to say too much because I hate spoilers, but basically it's about this girl named Lily, and she struggles with things of her past. At the beginning of the book, her dad, like, she's at her dad's funeral, or her dad like just died. Basically she meets this guy. I'm not really good at explaining this without spoiling anything, so basically just read the book. I'm telling you, just read it. Go in blind reading it, and you'll thank me later, and you'll thank everyone else on TikTok who I shoved this book in your face. The last book I'm going to talk to you about is my favorite book of all time. It Ends With Us was an amazing book, but it is not my favorite book of all time. This right here is my favorite book of all time. And it's called Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. And even just saying that, like, literally brings tears to my eyes, because I literally love this book so much. I think I read it in like one day. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I read this in one day. And please go into this book just not expecting anything. That's all I gotta say. It was amazing. It's hyped up for a reason. Please, please, please read this book. Also, wait, I forgot to mention for this one, read the trigger warnings. I'll give you a vague summary for this one too. So there's this girl named Tate and Miles, and this guy, the love interest named Miles. Miles is very closed off, like he doesn't talk about his emotions or anything. It's a brother's best friend trope. Okay, I'm not gonna say much because I'm scared I'm gonna spoil this book, but it's brother's best friend trope. There's plot twists. All of Colleen Hoover's books have a plot twist, but this was just amazing, and you don't expect to cry, but you cry. And I don't think I've cried. I probably cried in like 3 books in my life, and this one, like, after it, I was just like, I just like was thinking about it for the rest of the day. Like, I had no words, just none. So please, 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 please read this book. Those are all of the books, the hyped TikTok books that I've read. I have some more books that I've literally bought because of TikTok, but I haven't read them yet, so maybe I'll do another, maybe I'll do a part 2 to this video. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you don't hate me because of some of my reviews. Leave your comments down below on some of the books that I reviewed today. This is my first book video, so bear with me if some of my synopses were synopsis. Anyways, if they weren't good, bear with me because this is my first book video, but hopefully there's more book videos to come. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you guys in my next video. Bye!